Okay, let's go. AFUL Performer 8. AFUL, at full, whatever. Um, this is the Performer 8, the, I think, much unloved member of AFUL's product lineup, especially now that we have Dawn X coming out, which is like their flagship. I think this got quickly overshadowed by Performer 5 Plus 2. Well, Performer 5 still gets a lot of wrecks, but this guy still has some merit, I feel, in the world of everything else from one of Chi-Fi's darling brands at the moment. So let's get started. Here is how my set look at the moment on an IVIPQ cable, just because I had it around and I like it better. The tips are KB ear K02, and so with a shape like this shell, the Performer 8, which I believe is 8 because it's like 1 DD, 5 BAs, and nope, 1 DD, 7 balanced armatures. Okay, we'll get to the box in a second, but while I'm holding this guy with the camera, beautiful design in my opinion. They feel premium. They look premium in person. I've got no complaints with the build quality. They are sort of pseudo custom molded fit, so they have the big nub in here, and that, along with I want to say just something about the way that this interacts with my ear's anatomy. Any other tips, and after about a half hour to an hour, I get some hot spots, we'll call it, in my the start of my ear canal. No, not really. We'll call it in my ear. But these tips seem to position it such that I don't get any discomfort. So I'm using these. They're effectively like a wide bore kind of tip made of the same almost kind of silicone as like a Sednafit Zelastec here, which these are a little bit tackier, and that's why I think the camera can even pick up. Like this is just covered in like dust and whatever, but don't like those for that reason because they get gross. These, however, don't get as gross, and they're comfortable. So that's how I've been listening to these guys. No tuning, switches, nozzles, anything. They just are what they are. And TLDR, I think they're pretty good, but maybe even to a fault. We'll talk about it. Let's see. Stock cable, though, is not bad. I have it here. It looks okay. It's kind of stiff and a touch memory prone, but it'll unravel pretty quick, and general presentation is pretty premium. It feels like a quality cable. It's got nice sort of like nickel finish hardware. I don't know what the actual materials are in reality, but this is the 3.5 termination. I don't think they come in 4.4. They might. I don't remember at the moment, but I cut the ear hooks off of these, just the plastic shrink wrap, and I don't like ear hooks, so that's why this cable looks like this. I probably would still be using it if I didn't have that other cable around. It's a nice cable. I have no greater qualms other than the fact that it's kind of stiff and just a little bit kinky, but it's reasonably soft, and it can be well behaved. But that is kind of the major accessory. There's a puck style case that it comes with. It's pretty nice. That I don't have at my desk at the moment. It's probably on my coffee table or something. Just leave these here while I talk. It does come with an assortment of tips, of which look like these guys. They are kind of cute. They have the red for the right, blue for the left. Color coding, you'll get small, medium, large. They are of a sort of standard bore size. Sound wise, I want to say more or less well, we'll get to it. I have some graphs I'll put up on my screen in a second, but let's bring the box over real quick just to do a once over. Here we go. Performer 8. Nice professional packaging, AFUL acoustics, all that good stuff. What do we got specs wise? Frequency response 5 hertz to 35 kilohertz, which is pretty good. That's, you know, well over the threshold at which you'll actually hear, more than likely, which is around like 16-17 hertz at the 16-17 kilohertz at the top end for most people of my age, at least. Let's see, 25 ohm impedance, like I said before, with single dynamic and 7 balanced armatures. I don't know if AFUL has branded balanced armature drivers, and I don't know exactly what's going on with that dynamic, so that's like a trust me bro situation. I want to say it came with foams too, maybe. Let's see. Very nice presentation in this package wise. That's where your puck would go. Under that, we've got very nice foam cutout labeled small, medium, and large. And as you can see, plenty of tips, although I'm not using them just because the way that they interact with my ear is such that I get pain, as I described. And for whatever reason, I don't... Oh god, did I ruin this? Hold on. Figured it out. I figured it out. It's kind of laid out in a strange way. I never put these ear tips back, so... you'll also get black ear tips in here that spiritually are like a divinous velvet type thing, if I recall correctly. Oh god, am I really gonna rip one of these out right now? Let's see. There we go. Come on. Yeah, they look and feel like a divinous velvet with slightly different kind of stem, core, whatever you want to call it. I didn't really try these because I have divinous velvets, like actually, and graft them, but I would almost guarantee that these... Well, here, let's figure out. I'll set you there. Don't fall. Divinous velvets. Here we go. What's about the same? So this one's about the same size. So focus, please. This is a velvet. This is what comes in the Performer 8 box. They feel and look so similar. Actually, Divinous Velvet's a little bit wider of a bore now that I'm looking at it. So these are still kind of a standard bore. They're just black. They're not... Come on. Focus. There we go. Standard bore, just black instead of the fun color-coded tips. Either way, didn't use them. They're pretty much the exact same shape as the other tips, I think. Well, they might be a little rounder. But in any case, Divinous Velvets didn't work for me either with this set, so doesn't really matter. Sonically, I didn't find that tip rolling changed all that much for me. So, you know, there will be some differences that we'll see in the graph section, but you can pretty much expect that these are going to sound relatively consistent. They're very easy to drive on my sources. So let's say, take for example this Shanling here, H2. Can I get a focus? Can I get a focus? Camera, please. There we go. Well, or not. Okay, fuck the Shanling. Anyway, normally that thing will run, say, the Katori Audio Vampire at like 30 out of 100 on low gain, something around that range. Timeless 2 here, it'll probably need to be around 40, between 40 and 50 out of 100 on low gain to get to my normal listening levels. That doesn't need to be in focus right now. We'll get to Timeless 2 some other time. But where was I? This guy, I can be at 18, between 15 and 20 out of 100 on low gain with the Shanling H2, and it's plenty of juice. So they're easy to run, and honestly, that's like, let's say I was gonna bring these into a studio to monitor like guitar and drum input at like a studio desk, console, whatever you want to call it. A lot of that equipment is going to be single-ended, and a lot of the headphone amps and things, like, say for example my Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 down here, are not that good. So it's probably by design that they're pretty easy to run. I mean, with a name like Performer 8, you would think definitely the audience is a professional. And I mean, getting right into the sound, I will say they do sound rather professional. Before I switch over to my screen, though, is there anything else I wanted to go over? Cable good, a little finicky, ear tip situation, pseudo custom molded, blah blah blah. Easy to power. I think that's about it in terms of build comfort and quality. I think these still retail in the 300 range or just below, depending on what kind of sale you can get, and they feel every bit worth that money, if not a little better, just build wise. But sound wise, I think that you're still getting your money's worth. And I've spent a lot of time with these at this point. I think about 2 or 3 weeks, having them be a large part of my daily rotation, if not the only IEMs I've listened to for a day or two at a time. And I think in summation, if I had to put a descriptor on how Performer 8 sounds to me, it's a very balanced, detailed sound. Things are going to be imaged as they were intended by the producer. You're going to get about as much detail as you would want as a regular person. And I mean, in terms of engagement and exciting qualities, things like that, it's not the best. The dynamic driver for the bass does give a good amount of bass texture and a little bit of physicality, but you're not going to get really tight and incisive bass, in my opinion. You're going to get okay bass. And the graphic is going to indicate, it's sub-bass focused, and it sounds about that way. Although there is like I said, the dynamic driver is putting out a little bit of bass physicality and texture that, let's say this was just a 7BA set, that you might otherwise not get. And that is nice, especially at this price point. I think you can sort of see here that it's kind of a pretty overall balanced frequency response, and that's probably why it sounds balanced. Duh. But if we throw up something like, I don't know, say Aria 2, just as a point of comparison, you're going to see that there's a lot more kind of ear gain, and this kind of how we say, there's about this much energy in a lot of sets, whereas this has a little bit more relaxed ear gain, and the sort of big characteristic here is treble extension, right? So you're going to see relaxed ear gain into, depending on the tips, right, a good amount of air, not so much that it is harsh at any point, really. Yeah, I can't recall any sibilance or anything like that I've come across. It's an inoffensive listen, and I enjoy it for that, but I do find myself sort of reaching for other sets recently, maybe because this is so inoffensive, and I mean, it's versatile for that, right? You can listen to anything on it. I was just listening to Dying Fetus, but normally I'll listen to, American football. I'll listen to some K-pop stuff, Twice, LE SSERAFIM, Artemis, stuff like that, and it will handle anything quite well. Just not, maybe not in the most exciting way. You're getting a lot of treble energy, and you're getting all the details, right? But it's ultimately more of a monitoring sound, in my opinion. I get a sense that I'm hearing everything that the mics picked up and everything that the producers wanted to include in the recording, or were able to detect that they were including in their recording at the time when I'm listening to music. I think I've even watched media and things like that on these, and it is versatile, we'll say. But I have 3 different variations on its graph up here. I started off with the stock tips, found some discomfort after some time, so I switched up to the type E's, which I ran with for a while, and you can see if you get something with a little bit narrower of a bore that provides the same sort of fit in your ear, you will get a slightly different sense of air and maybe a little more energy in the upper mids, depending on how well things are sitting in your ear and your anatomy itself. So bear that in mind if you're a tip roller. If not, you're gonna get a little bit more, I don't want to say laid back, but you're gonna, either way, I didn't find any harshness with the sound, but there's a bit more of a dip in the, what is that? We'll call that the lower treble, right? When the air starts, top of mid treble, you'll get a little more energy here. But again, that's just on my rig. It depends on your anatomy and things like this. I ultimately settled on the tips that I described earlier, which are the KT02s. This is the graph of the KT01 tip, which is very similar. The KT02 is the successor, but bore size is basically the same, I think, if not a little narrower. So actually, I think the Dunu S and S, yeah, this sort of graph is what is more than likely I'm getting in my own head. And this is just all tip to tail. This is a very compliant graph with, like, I want to say, what is one of the neutral targets? IEF 2020, yeah. IEF 2020 with a bass boost. What about precogs target. Okay, it's kind of near the precog. Everything below the ear gain. Let's look at HBB's target. Yeah, so not as warm as HBB's target, but more or less like compliant above, say, 400 hertz ish here and there. Meaning, I think HBB is a good sort of median of tastes. Dude listens to a lot of hip hop and classic rock, things like this. And I do find this sort of sound to be appropriate for basically anything, just not great at much, I think, unless your aim is specifically, I want the cleanest and most honest sound with a little bit of excitement that I can get, right? Like, these aren't dead neutral, boring, but they're not far off. But they're good. I mean, they have their merits. And I think at this price range, this kind of cleanliness is hard to come by. A lot of things are sort of flavored and whatnot. I think I just heard my camera die. Let's check. Camera's dead. Cool. We're staying with the screen the rest of this, folks. Anyways, yeah, I don't have much else to say aside from Performer 8. It's a 4-star on my Squig Link. It's good, right? I may not hold on to mine. That remains to be seen. I just find myself not reaching for it as much as I thought I would be, just because it is such a sort of sterile sound. But yeah, all around, I think it's still a decent buy in today's market if you want to kind of run away from new meta JM1 tune stuff, don't really vibe with V-shaped sets, or you're not so much of a vocal forward person. This kind of treats everything, I mean, you can tell by how, I don't want to say compressed this graph is, but it's a relatively controlled and not flat, but you get my point. The graph is about as clean and even as it sounds, and that's its greatest strength, and its greatest weakness is also that it's just not a mind blower, put it that way. But I think that about wraps it up with my thoughts on the AFUL Performer 8. I still really enjoy it. It's built well. And worth at least demoing if you can get to something like a Can Jam or there's a store near you. If you're looking for like a balanced, neutral-ish sound and you're not too concerned with, big crazy bass drops and aren't digging for details, or not, you'll get all the details, but aren't digging for air and, maybe you have if you're a treble head too, I mean, this is really not going to be not your set. But as an all-rounder, it's not bad. Fit and comfort for me were an issue, but that's sort of solved itself with tip rolling, but that took some time. Anyways, that's gonna do it from me. My camera's dead, so I won't do my whole peace out thing on camera, but I'll post the links to my Squig site, and yeah, like, comment, subscribe, do all the whatevers. Enjoy the rest of your days, nights, whatever. Peace.